welcome to the Screamcast episode, Who the Heck Knows Anymore? I'm done keeping track of episode numbers. Today is a very special episode. I have with me Cati Glidewell. Did I pronounce that correct?
That is correct.
All right, from the blonde in front. And, of course, Jay Hawkinson, Screamcast writer.
Yep. Back on the show after a long hiatus, right?
Yeah.
It's been a while.
You both attended the Nightmares Film Festival, and this was in Chicago?
Columbus,
Ohio.
Columbus, Ohio. Okay, cool. I have my notes in front of me. I'm not winging this at all.
Sorry, I should have put that
notes
on.
up here.
Yeah.
Jay, you've been doing some write-ups for the site, and I was like, well, shoot, let's try to do a little podcast episode talking about some of these movies, and then I believe Cati was there as well, and you both were talking about them after each screening, so it just made sense for Cati to come on. So welcome to the show, you guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Glad to be here.
So Jay, if you can just set up what the Nightmares Film Festival is, and we can dive into some of these.
Right. So I had known about the Nightmares Film Festival. I've never attended it, and it was only because one of my friends was he did some work on one of the films that was there, and he was going, and I was like, oh, I'd be interested in going, and when I went there, we cruised down there from Chicago to Columbus, and it was like a really cool, festival and that set up really well, really great venue, like in the University District of Columbus. So it's a really cool, it's the Gateway Film Center. Just a really cool venue. I really like it a lot. It's like a multiplex. They show a lot of like really cool independent films, international films on 35 millimeter. Like when we got there, they were showing like Fright Night on 35 millimeter. And some other like horror films. I was like, oh my gosh, I could just go to these. I mean, this is incredible. And then of course, I hadn't been to the festival before. And then when we got there, and Cati was there, and it's funny because I've seen Cati at like so many other events like around Chicago, and it's like, oh hey, it's like, I'm Jay from Chicago, and she's like, I'm Cati from Chicago. I'm like, whoa, okay, cool. And she immediately is like, oh, I've done this festival before. I'm like, oh, okay. And so, she knows more about it than I do, and she was actually there. You were there last year, right, Cati?
Yes.
So
I was there last year. Last year was year 3 for it.
Okay. So yeah, so what's your experience been like, with this festival?
I love Nightmares because, I think the two gentlemen that are the head of it, Chris Hamill and Jason Tostafine, they immediately want to make sure that everyone is taken care of. Like, who do you need to talk to? Who can I introduce to you? I want you to talk to this person. And I mean, that just blew me away when I was there. And it even do that this year too. Like, I think he tried to introduce us. I'm like, actually, we just met, but yeah, that's great. And it's just got immediate. You just have this sense of camaraderie, and the egos are like gone. Like, they just want everyone to have like a cohesive unit of like genre, and getting like doing interviews, doing comparing notes on scripts and possible future projects together. And that's just, even if this is a festival that has awards, it's not about its awards. It's like supporting each other. And that's one of the things I think it's great that it's, it's the home of like a better horror. And it says a lot that it's the #1 genre film festival on Film Freeway. So that, that's voted on by like directors and people who are involved in the films. And that, I think, is the biggest compliment that you could ever receive for a genre film festival. But yeah, even this year, meeting everyone there this year, and like gaining more friends, and talking to different people that I'm going to be doing different interviews with. I think it's just a great festival.
And you go to a lot of festivals, so you would put this one pretty close to the top of
Yeah,
festivals?
I would definitely put it close to the top.
Okay. Because I had the, my experience from the festivals that I've gone to, it reminded me a lot of like the Stanley Film Festival, for example, that's no longer, but it had a few good years there, but it was like just a real, you know, kind of like a low key, but a real, still like a very buzzy vibe there, where you're
Mhm.
just, everybody's like excited, everyone wants to talk to you, and the people that are working the fest are super helpful, and it's just, there's no like negativity. There's nothing like, it's just a really cool place, and having a great venue helps. Having the great space that they have for, the attendees to hang out in. I think all of
Yeah.
it just works so well.
Well, I mean, Gateway Film Center, I mean, is just one of my favorite theaters, like honestly, in the country, if not the world. Like, I mean, like you were saying, you've got the genre, you've got the mainstream, and then they've got this collection of 70 millimeter and 35 millimeter films. And like seeing all of those, because I got to take a little tour, take a little tour on behind the scenes,
Oh, really?
and yeah, I did. Haha, I'm fancy like that. Um, but yeah, to see that stuff in the background, and they had what is it? They had like 70 millimeter and like actual film reels, film like pieces of film from like the black hole, and
Wow.
it was, yeah, and they had Psycho that was like still on this, because I mean one we got there in an amazing time because it was the weekend before Halloween,
Right, right.
so all of the horror films are playing. It's like, hells yeah, they are. And yeah, I just can't, I mean, I just love that venue so much, like the little bar in the bottom and the area where we can all hang out up top. The only, I mean, and that's the thing, this isn't a negative, but the only negative that I would have is that you are in the middle of, you're at the end of a film, you need to leave the theater, you're talking to everybody, and I just wish we had a little bit more time, because then I realized like, okay, so the next thing started 10 minutes ago, so I ended up missing like the intros for either different the shorts that would precede the features, or miss a chunk of the features. So I'm like, well, that's part of the thing that we're doing. We need to network and like get to meet people and talk to them about the stuff that we've seen and what we're going to see. But that's not a negative to have.
Yeah, I would say for a programming in general, like it's relentless. Like it's like probably the most jam-packed festival I've been to. And I've been to, festivals, from, like everything from whether it's Chicago International Film Festival or it's Fantastic Fest, you know, it's the pace that they schedule movies is incredible. I mean, you're in it and you're going and you're, and it's quite impressive that they do that. But and it's 150 short films,
Wow.
you know, plus like 25 or 24 feature films. It's crazy. So
So I was going to ask you guys, how did you schedule your days? Is this something like kind of is it Fantastic Fest where you kind of have to pick and choose your schedules beforehand? What was that experience like?
I mean, for me, yeah, I had to pick and choose. And I would look at some of the things that were playing. I've seen a few I've seen at other festivals. So then
Okay.
that helped me out, because then I was like, okay, great. So I'm not, I've seen this film, so I can actually eat, or keep talking to someone. Eating is a rarity when you go to any film festival. Eating and
Right.
sleeping. That was definitely, yeah, didn't get much of either of those. But it's just, and it's hard because honestly their shorts program is so good, but then there are some of these features that it's like, I mean, we'll get into the features later, but there's definitely some that I watch twice because I love seeing it the first time, and even if I miss the beginning or miss the end, it's like I know the film and I want to see it again on the big screen, because I don't know when I'll get to see it, if they'll have like a mainstream release. So yeah, it's hard. It's really hard to do my thing. What was nice is that at least on the 24th, which is Thursday, and then on Sunday, they didn't double book like the shorts and the features. So then it's like great, straight day. thanks, brain. You don't have to think that much. You just have to enjoy all this stuff on the screen, and tell people what you think later. All right, nicely done.
Right. Well, I mean, speaking of that, the opening night, there was 2 features and then a short film block, but the opening night film was Swallow, which
Yeah.
had also played, I think, Brooklyn Film Festival, and then it played at Fantastic Fest, and I know that it had gotten really good, reactions out of those festivals. So I was really happy that that was something that we could see there, because I didn't see it, hadn't seen it prior to this, and I thought it was really cool. It was an interesting choice to open a festival, because it's, you were thinking you're going to get like this like crazy like probably this horror film or something. It's Nightmares Film Festival, but instead it's still very dark. It's kind of like I would say this like a much darker Lifetime channel type movie that's stars Haley Bennett, and she's great in it, and I just thought it was like a very interesting choice, which was kind of cool, because you're watching this movie and it's kind of lulling you into this like, oh, okay, it's kind of like this drama, but it's really kind of strange and some weird things happen, and then the rest of that night it just it's sort of like kind of easing you into the festival. I mean, it's not it's about a woman who gets pregnant, and then she starts ingesting things that probably aren't like safe for her, that it's like very dangerous to eat certain things, like and not like food things, but like solid objects like around her house. And it's just it's something that it's just a very interesting movie that I thought it was just an interesting choice to start a festival. What did you think about that, Katie?
Oh, to me, I mean, awards, nominations, all that stuff. I thought Haley Bennett's performance, honestly, was to me, she should have won Best Actress for the fest, because the condition she had is called pica, and that's something that not a lot of people know about. And I think the way that they showed it was very, very interesting. And I know that was one of the talking points like after the movie, because I know a lot of people didn't know that was, and I know a patient that actually did that. And some of the things that in the film that she's eating, like when she's eating dirt and stuff like that, that is something that this is a condition that people have, and this is what they do.
Right.
But I also thought that there was a monologue that Dennis O'Hare says like close to the end of the film that honestly was one of the I don't want to like reveal what the subject was, because that's a big part of who the main character Hunter is, played by Haley Bennett. But Dennis O'Hare's monologue was just outstanding, and on a subject that is not, I don't know, like it's on a very touchy subject, and that was something that stood out to me in the film. But I thought Haley Bennett did such a good job in this movie. And I mean, the production design was just ridiculous. Not to mention, I wanted everything that she was wearing. So there's that too.
Yeah, it's
as
beautiful.
A female voice, I wanted all of her wardrobe.
Yeah. No, it was a beautiful movie. I just thought it was just an interesting choice, because I think it was kind of a subversive choice actually for Nightmares to lead with that, to open with that. So kudos to them for doing something unexpected.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because go ahead.
Oh, and then it leads into Eat Brains Love, which is completely different. You go from Swallow to then that.
Right. So Eat Brains Love is directed by the director of Idle Hands.
Yeah, Rodman Flender.
Yeah, and he was there, and it was really great, because it's it couldn't be more different of a film, in terms of everything that it's doing. It's this zombie teen comedy type film with a lot of heart, and I thought it was great. Like we had a blast with it. We just thought it was super fun, and it's kind of like really harkens back to like what he was doing with Idle Hands.
Yeah. And I love the whole Romeo and Juliet zombie rom-com sort of thing, which I mean, and I thought the way he did the characters and the characters' performances and the choices he made uh, in the casting was really good too. Something's going on with some feelings about Iowa in the film. That was definitely very I
Sean's from
mean,
Iowa.
someone really hates Iowa from that wrote that film. They really do.
I didn't
That
write it, but me and Iowa are not. To any Iowa listeners, I apologize, but I got out of there pretty fast. I haven't
well,
been back.
and then it sets it up. It also sets it up for a sequel, if not a number of sequels. But one of the things, like this is one of the films that I actually did get to see the short for before the feature with Playtime's Over, which was one of my favorites.
Yes, I really love this short film. It's just you know, it's a babysitter and there's a kid, and it's a sort of an homage to like horror films. And when it started with like the Night of the Living Dead thing, I was kind of like, oh, here we go. You know, like, really? Are we going to do this again? And then as it goes along and it starts incorporating other horror films and nods to these different films, and you're grooving right along with it. By the end, I was like, I love this thing. Like, this is great. This is really, it's really clever. It's really funny. I just love how it ends. It's just, I was dying when it ended. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so great. I hope many people get a chance to see this movie.
So do I, because I know there are films that have nods, but I love it when there's such an abundance of nods to different horror films that then it becomes almost a psycho scavenger hunt. Like you're trying to figure out, like, oh, what's this mean? What's this mean? What's the underlying meaning of that? And then the end was just so childlike and yet horrific because you know what the film is. And I'm like, wow, that was really funny. That was really funny. And then even the name, I mean, the little girl's name is Dee, which I'm like, okay, that's a nod to Dee Wallace Stone. Nice. And then the babysitter's name was Jamie. I'm like, all right, Jamie Lee Curtis. I get it. That's cute.
Yeah. Well, I think what did it for me, and is there's a moment where it goes black and white, and I was like, oh my gosh, and it gave me goosebumps in a way. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is great. This is so clever the way that they're doing it. It wasn't like cheesy. It was actually everything they did was very smart. And yeah, Playtime's Over is definitely like was a high point for the shorts for me. And I didn't get to see a lot of shorts, but that one is definitely one of my favorites.
Yeah, that was one that definitely stood out with the whole fest to me too.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, so for that day, I think both we didn't stay late that night because we had an early day the next day on day 2.
Yeah. Yes.
Like Sean, the screenings start at 9 a.m. in the morning.
Oh.
And so you've got a late night already, opening night, and then it's like, oh, okay, we got to be back here for 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have the stamina for festivals anymore. I don't know.
It's tough, man. I mean, you've got to make choices, like Katie said earlier. You're making choices on every screening, and so at least for the first 3 films on day 2, which was Friday, they weren't up against short film blocks, but there were definitely films I wanted to see. Like Daniel Isn't Real kicked off Friday morning. I was shocked that they put that movie at 9 a.m. because I'd already heard really good things about it out of other festivals. But I'm like, we have to be here. And there's no question. We're going to be here at 9 to see this. As it turns out, it's my favorite film of the entire festival. And I'm so glad I got to see it, and I can't wait to see it again. And I think you were there too, right, Katie, for that?
I came in late because I stayed out too late, but I had also seen it before at another festival. The regret I have is that I missed Check.
Right.
Because Check is one of my favorite shorts of the year. The director, Justin Nelson, was there. When I saw Check the first time, we became friends, and I actually told him, it's like, you got to come to Nightmares. Like, you don't understand. Nightmares is amazing. And they end up coming, and then I'm a crappy person and didn't show up for his short. But you did, Jay, and I know you had many amazing things to say about it.
Yeah, it's another one of my favorites. It's probably, it might be like my number one or number two for the entire, for of all the short films I saw. And I saw, probably, I don't know, probably 3 dozen short films. So I saw a good bit. But yeah, it's such a well told story, and it's something that, again, you don't know, you think you know what's going on, and it's really about this relationship, this new relationship between this young man and this young woman. And she's asking this man, who's coming and staying at her place, like, hey, just make sure, just check under the bed. And you keep thinking, you're like, where's this going? And it just, it really gets you all wound up about what's happening. And then and leading to a place that you're like super happy that it goes, because it really just goes, it just goes for it. It's crazy, but it is so well done, and it's just a great story, and it's like the perfect little story for the short film format. It just works so well, and I was like, this is it. This is great. If you're gonna make a short film, this right here, here's your template right here. This a perfect way to do it.
Well, and the performances are too. I mean, like Jamie Morrow and Jabari Everett are just so good. And I mean, they've got great chemistry on screen. And it's just a simple thing
It's
that
so
it's like,
simple.
just do this one thing. Just do this one. This is all I ask. Just check under the bed every
Yeah,
night. Just
yeah,
check under the bed. And we're doing great. Just check under the bed. Just one thing. And, it's that's,
yeah,
maybe nothing happens, maybe something does, but it's like, if you just do that one thing, that's all I ask. So
yeah. But I love how you're thinking, like, where's this gonna go? Is she gonna do something? What's gonna happen? You just don't know. And you're waiting for it, but it just keeps kind of going on, and you're along for this ride. But it is really well executed. I'm very impressed by
well,
that. So
and even Justin said, like, in his Q&A, I mean, because there's many people like, oh, I thought this is what this meant at the end. It's like, maybe it is, maybe it's not. It's up
right.
to you to think what that means. And I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, yeah. And I would say, if of all the shorts, I would absolutely put that like in my top five of like seeking out, whenever it's available, and watching it. And it's something that even I would, like, if I was doing like a movie night with friends or whatever, I would put it on and show it, because it's so good. It's just fun. Really, it was a
Yeah.
great start to the day. Leading into Daniel Isn't Real. Daniel Isn't Real is, that's directed by Adam Egypt Mortimer, right?
Uh-huh.
And yeah, it's just, wow, that movie is so good. I mean, it's touching on a lot of, like, really great subjects, and just in terms of like mental illness, and this, dealing with, of course, you've got, this college student, and he's got his mother who's, has issues, and he's trying to help, his mother, but at the same time, he's got this quote unquote invisible friend, Daniel, who is in his life and trying to control his life. And it is just, wow. I mean, and the acting, and it was throughout the whole thing. I was impressed with like everybody in that film. I mean, it was a very, very, very good film. Like, absolutely my favorite film of the festival, and the one that I would recommend the most to anybody, you know, that has a chance to see some of these films.
I do agree. I mean, the performances were fantastic. Like, I mean, this is Patrick Schwarzenegger. This is,
Yep.
Arnold's son. But I mean, this is him. I mean, this is not his dad. This is his film. I was very surprised, and uh, I don't know, impressed by how it's like, all right, you know what? If I've seen him in like a few heartthrob stuff,
Hmm.
but this is something that I think he can definitely excel at in this genre. Like, this was a very solid performance by him, and then also by because he plays Daniel, and then
Right.
also by what's his name?
Miles Robbins.
Sorry. Yes, because I always see him, like, he was in the new Halloween,
Hmm.
and he always plays like, you know, those high school sort of chemists, college chemists, who it's like, all right, so we're going to take this, it's going to be really smooth. But this was a different take on what I can see him doing like later on and stuff like that. And that's nice to see. He's not pigeonholing himself and just like the long haired um smoking pot guys. Not that anything is wrong with that, but you know, I
Yeah.
have many. Yeah, but yeah, these two guys definitely. I couldn't see this film being the same if they didn't have if they're working off each other, and then also to have
Sasha Lane.
Mary Stuart Masterson in
Oh
a
yeah,
role that
yeah.
you
As his
don't
mother.
see her, and she plays Luke, who is Miles Robbins' mom, and
Yeah.
that was a that was a that was a heavy role. Like
Yeah.
that definitely showing yeah, what you're talking about, touching on the different mental illness. Like, yeah, no, and different dream sequences. I thought they did a great job of capturing that.
Right. And I did like Sasha Lane as like the cool girl artist type,
Yeah.
that's not going to deal with this bullshit. It's like, no, I'm done with you. Get away, And it was like, she's like it was like a strong role for her, where it's just, she's not just going to, play into what was going on, but actually be like, you know what? I don't need this, I'm done, So yeah, I thought it was great. Yeah.
Well, and then like for me, I mean, they had Girl on the Third Floor, which nice again with a performance from that I did not see coming, but I want to see more of by CM Punk.
Right.
And it's also nice to see. I mean, I don't know if it's nice to see, but it's refreshing to see someone who is covered in tattoos, who is the lead star, and it's not like some action film or it's about wrestling and stuff like that. And like this was a horror film. There are a few things that I had issue with though. Just basically like any listeners, I'm very technologically challenged, but there are a few things I know, like when you're working on rehabbing a house, you wear shoes. That's kind of a basic thing. Like I'm not much of the Bob Vila or flip or flop whatever, but I know you wear shoes when you've got a chance of anything splinters, and also you put something on your face when
I'm a
you've
sandals
got,
wearer.
yeah, see there, shoot, anything covering up a piece of flesh on your feet. I think that's about. But there were just some things when he's trying to rehab a house. I'm like, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. I mean, come on, you can do. I mean, get something like rehabbing a house for dummies. Like this isn't how that happens.
Well,
So
I will say this in his defense. I will say I don't think it was like his thing. Like I think he was doing it. I think he was trying to appease his wife, and they were like, "Hey, let's buy this house in the suburbs. I'll fix it up. We'll start a new life out there," kind of thing. So I think he wasn't really meant to be like this expert on it. Kind of. I think he was supposed to like know some things, but maybe not know everything. Maybe I'm just spitballing here, but I kind of think that maybe because I didn't really even notice that. That's
hilarious.
Yeah.
So this is Travis. This is Travis Stevens. Is it his directorial debut?
Yeah.
Friend of the show, Travis Stevens.
He's been a guest on Screamcast. Yeah, so I really liked the film. I thought it was just I thought CM Punk was great as this sort of, and I almost like he was conflicted. He was kind of like this fish out of water because he's out in the suburbs, away from the city, trying to rehab this house, but he's still trying to be this same kind of guy that he's always been. And it just so happens that the house is haunted, so he's like, oh shit, what's going on? And then it just goes in places that very unexpected places and has some incredible effects, some pretty gooey, gory effects, which are great. And I think for me, the first 2/3 of the movie I thought were really, really good. And I think in the third movie, some things happen with his character. So then it sets it up for his wife in the third act, which for me, I was like, oh, I'm digging CM Punk. He's great. And then it's kind of like, oh, well, now it's her story. It's like, and that was for me, it was sort of like the place where I was like, oh, I wish, it maybe something different could have happened there. Still good, but it kind of threw me there. And I kind of like, oh, okay, this is what's going on now. Got it. Understood.
I just liked in the film, there's a woman who's a preacher who is the minister across the street of the church, yet she doesn't I mean, she's like, I've seen people come and go and stuff like that. But yet she doesn't give them like an insight. It's like, look, this place is haunted. There's been a lot of people who've lived here and they haven't lived very long lives. So I would say leave.
Right.
But no, she's just like, no, God will do God will do his will. Like whatever happens, it happens.
Yeah.
I'm like, I think you guys could have given him at least a heads up. I mean,
Right.
but that was just me.
Yeah.
But ooh, it had such like visuals that were just so gross with ooze and that, I mean, just the way it looked, I could almost smell it. I'm like, well done. That just was ugh.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was great. I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to what he does. He's produced so many really cool films, and it's just so great to see him in the director's chair. And I think it was a very promising start, with Girl on the Third Floor. So yeah, congrats to Travis.
Awesome.
Did you?
Yeah.
So my next movie was One Bedroom or One BR. Did you go to the shorts during that?
I went to part of the shorts.
Okay.
One BR. So I went to the Recurring Nightmares.
Okay.
And I went to, sorry, I'm going to look at what the Recurring Nightmares, because I saw about 50 shorts, I think, throughout the fest. So Recurring
That's not even half.
Nightmares.
I mean, there's like 150. That's not even half the amount of shorts.
Oh, I know. And it's like my brain is, it's like I was trying to, it's like, did I see this? Yes, I saw that. Did I see this? No, I saw that. The Recurring Nightmares, I know, what was it? Oh, One Last Meal played, which loved the performance by Matt Mercer as a guard in a prison. I thought he was really, really good.
Who directed?
I think Jill Gavargazian,
Yep.
who is from KC. And then I left in the middle of that because I wanted to make sure I saw some of them, but then I wanted to check out One Bedroom because I missed that at another fest. But I know Psychopath. I loved Psychopath. It's about this girl who's got a vlog and she goes on different paths in the woods to get people involved. And she comes across this cabin when it's raining, and she's recording everything so she can put up on her vlog later. And it's a weird cabin, and then someone breaks in and stuff happens. And yeah, one of the things I liked about it so much is that it was a short, yet I would want to see this as a feature, because it has that potential. And that's some of the shorts that I saw seemed like they were trailers for a movie, but this one seemed like, look, it's a short, but if you expanded this into a feature, I definitely could see that being successful. So that was one of my favorites of that Recurring Nightmares. And then I walked into One Bedroom, and I missed the beginning, but I think you guys told me what I missed, and I was like, okay, that's kind of what I figured when I missed and when I came in. So it was solid. And I know the actress that was in that ended up winning Best Actress for the features.
Yep. That's Nicola Brighton Bloom.
Yeah.
And this was probably my second favorite film of the festival, and it just worked really well for me. It's this young woman. She is looking for an apartment in Los Angeles. She finds this apartment complex, and they have to go through this process of getting interviewing her to get into this apartment complex, and then she does, and it's so like perfect, the situation that she's in, and that something's not right with it. And of course that's true. There's something very, very wrong about this apartment complex. And so it's her trying to figure out what it was until she finally discovers what's happening, and then gets sucked into this entire whole other thing, that's like sort of this cult kind of situation with these people that live in the apartment complex. And I thought it was really, really good. Like, great performance by her. I mean, she has to carry that entire film. It's just essentially from her point of view. So she's carrying that entire film. And it was such an impressive performance. I mean, the story as it unfolds and plays out, you're kind of like, okay, you see where it's going and all that. And really it's what's going to keep you engaged is just that performance and the people around her. But really her performance, it's like, how, is she selling it? Are you believing what's happening here? And then once she, once it goes full on towards the end of that movie, it's like, what's going to happen? Where's it going? And I thought it was great. I thought it was really, 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 really good.
No, I agree. And it has this like, I mean, if they wwere trying to give it a Twilight Zone feel, I mean, they definitely nailed it. But it's also that what you were saying about the lead actress, they had their actress actually something happened and they didn't have an actress and they found her 3 days before filming.
Yeah, which is
And
insane.
it was just like, out of chance. And I was like, well, it's a good thing you did, because I mean, I couldn't see, again, I can't see this film being done without her performance, and that was that was a well-earned best actress. Like, she was great.
Yeah.
She was
Yeah, I was very,
absolutely fantastic.
very happy that she won that award. And it's a story that's in a weird way. It's like it plays like this like modern like Invasion of the Body Snatchers type story. I mean, it's not that, it's not, if you've seen those movies, it's not that kind of, exactly that kind of movie. But if you just think of like, replacing people with another person and what a cult could do to someone, it sort of plays like that. And I thought that was just a really cool way to tell a very similar story. Did you go
And
to
then
did you go to the short film package next after that?
I saw the one that stood out to me in the, I think that's Horror Shorts B that I saw, was Boo, directed by Rockafet Abergirl.
Okay.
That ended up being, that's again, one of my favorite shorts of the year, about a woman who is in a Addicts Anonymous sort of meeting, and she comes out and she gets attacked, but then she's like telling the story to her fiance of what happened. And it's an interesting take on addiction and recovery, and with a horror twist to it that I don't know. I don't want to say no. I mean, yeah, I didn't see coming, but I knew. It's a genre fest, so I knew something diabolical was going to happen. But I mean, it has some great makeup and practical effects, excellent performances, and I believe she won the award. Did she win the award for best actress in a short? I can't remember. Maybe she did. I know she won an award at the fest, and it was well earned, whatever it is, because again, that was one of my that's one of my favorites of the entire fest.
And that was Boo?
Boo.
BOO? Because I think I have a postcard for that. I think I
Yeah.
picked a postcard at the.
Yeah, BOO. That
Okay.
was real. Yeah, you should definitely see that. And then when was it? And then also, I know The Burden was during Friday night. Burdens is one of my favorite shorts again of the year. And I think you like that too, correct?
Yeah, that was definitely another favorite of mine. Another one that you don't you think you might know what's going on, and you don't at
Yeah.
all. And is that like is it Norwegian or Finnish, or it's?
I think it's not Swedish. I think it is Norwegian.
Okay. Yeah, it's where the guy brings home his, I don't know if she's just a girlfriend or fiance, to meet the family, and just things get real weird. Really, yeah, it's really good though. It's one of those things where it could have gone another way that would be just much more traditional or expected, and I think what it does and how it plays with that idea of introducing someone to your family, it's just done in a different way that I thought was great.
Yeah. No, well, and again, I mean, it's just it had one of the best, I think, directions of a short that I saw, and also some really good cinematography. But again, it's performances. Like, I was very impressed by the performances in a number of these shorts. Did you see Nightcrawl?
No, I did
that
not.
played?
Nope.
Okay, so Nightcrawl is the short about two guys. It's kind of got this like sort of an escape from Alcatraz meets Shawshank Redemption meets The Descent.
Mm-hmm.
That is one. I mean, I don't even know how they did the ending and the big reveal, because I mean the set for it looks massive, and I was paying attention to see if it was some sort of CGI stuff, and it didn't look like it to me. But again, you've got excellent performances. It's a very short amount of time to get everything across, and I thought it did an excellent job of doing that. I hope I didn't.
Did you describe it like Shawshank Redemption meets The Descent?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd watch that.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm sold. I'm sold right there.
I mean, it's not. That's what I got from it. It's like I wrote down. It's like, okay, this is a little bit Shawshank. I get it. It's like, and right, and now we got The Descent. Okay, nicely done. Nicely done.
That's great. That's great. So I take it you didn't see The Reckoning, the feature film?
I did not see The Reckoning.
That was that's another highlight too. That's a very unexpected selection that I think won one of the major awards too. Yeah, best thriller feature. It won the award for that, and that was like this rural backcountry sort of thriller, sort of kind of horror type film. It's but more thriller about this mother. This incredible performance by Danielle Deadweiler. And she's essentially like caught up in this feud, and it's like in this backcountry, like in the Appalachia area, of these like, you know, that have gone back generations, you know, these like, you know, like kind of like this family feud between these two families, and she's really stuck in the middle, and she's tasked with like trying to resolve the issues between these two families, you know, against her will, because they basically have kidnapped her son, and she wants to save her son, and she's got to jump through hoops to try and resolve it between these two families that don't like each other. And it's kind of, it has that sort of Winter's Bone type of vibe to it, just because it's like this rural backcountry where there's like their own rules, you know, and the laws are different because they're, you know, it's just they're way up in the mountains, and this is how they do things. And it's a really great, it's just like a super good film that I'm like, wow, this is one I could recommend to a lot of people, because it's not necessarily like horror or, you know, something that's going to be like too extreme for anyone. It's just something that's like just a really good thriller, you know, with great performances, and just a really, you know, and I think even in the introduction, I think the programmers that had selected it said that this is like their favorite film of Nightmares. And I could see why, because it is just a solid film. It is just really, really good. Very impressive.
See, and I'm bummed that I missed that. But I mean, that's, you know, like we said at the beginning, you have to make choice. It's Sophie's choice. It's
Right.
Sophie's choice during festivals like this. And
Right. Yeah, and so for like me, you know, like I went to the short film block instead of going to VFW, because I'd seen VFW at Fantastic Fest, and that movie, that was a hard choice for me, because that movie with an audience is nuts. Like it is like that is a movie you want to watch with an audience. That's Joe Bigos essentially remaking Assault on, you know, on Precinct 13, but like full on. Like it is just it is such a fun movie. And it's, you know, if you know anything about Joe Bigos and the stuff that he's done, I mean, it's like a lot of practical effects, you know, heads explode, you know, I mean, it is fun. It is so much fun with an audience. And I was like, oh, should I, you know, and so everybody that I was like hanging out with, they're like, we're going to that again, because we got to see that. That movie's incredible. And I'm like, but I've seen it, and I want to see the short films because I haven't seen those. So that was a tough choice. So yeah.
Joe Bigos he's really coming into his own. Like I just watched Bliss, and then I want to see VFW, and like I haven't been a fan of his other movies. Like I like the idea of them, but I haven't like enjoyed them as much as everyone else. But man, Bliss knocked me on my ass. That movie.
That's that's like might be my favorite film of the year, Sean.
Wow.
Bliss just blew me away at Cinepocalypse. Just blew me away.
Well, I always love cool takes on vampires. I mean, I'm narrating a vampire book right now for the audiobook stuff, and so I'm like more in tune to vampires, and so I kind of watched it at the right time. But I adore that film. Just everything about it was just fantastic.
Yeah, no, I agree. I got to see it at Cinepocalypse too, and it blew me away. It's just it's got that sort of like the hunger feel to it, but
Mm-hmm.
it's like so right now, and just everything about it is just incredible. But I mean, Bigos is killing it in
Yeah,
2019. I
totally.
love VFW. Um, and yeah, no, it really is. It is. It's Assault on Precinct. It's a modern, well, a futuristic Assault on Precinct 13 with then a freaking cast of like legendary actors who I got to see him talk about making the film. And I mean, you got like Stephen Lang, Martin Cove, William Stadler, Fred Williamson. They've been in like decades of movies that I think each one of us can name like five. That's like, oh, remember this, remember this. And, he just said it to him straight. It's like, this is a schedule. This is what we're going to do. And I mean, they're like, all right, no egos. We're going to do these roles. And it was just amazing. Plus, it had probably one, I don't know, it had one of my favorite kills of the year. That, oh god, there's so much blood, there's so much blood in this movie, there's so much. And
Yeah.
also that I mean, yeah, they got to use part of like the actual VFW to do this kill, and I'm like, nicely done, very well. Yeah.
Right.
But
Right.
that's yeah, you're right, it is an experience to have, because I mean, at the end people were clapping, people are cheering, and I'm like, I don't remember that happening for a lot of the film, so that's always nice to be involved with.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was essentially our days on for Friday, the second day. But we had another early day on Saturday. Saturday was by far the longest day because I think the
Oh,
first film started at 10 a.m. and
yes.
and then the last film started at 2 a.m. So
Yeah.
I mean, it is like, it's a long day. There's no, I mean, it was a long day. But I know for me, I started off that day with the animated film To Your Last Death, which I thought was really interesting and fun. And it reminded me, it's got it's like this animated film, but it's like not traditional animation, but more like motion comic animation. Like I thought of,
Uh-huh.
it reminded me a lot of like TV Funhouse, like that kind of animation, but like much more rendered, but like sort of like where only the mouths move, you know,
Yeah.
or there's only small movements throughout it, so it made it even more funny. And it was I think it really, and it's just this super crazy story about this you know this this wealthy businessman who is played by Ray Wise, by the way, who is
Mhm.
excellent, and they actually made him look like Ray Wise in the movie,
Well,
so it was hilarious. But he's like this, he's got like all these children, like five adult children, and he wants to leave all of his he's dying. He has this like terminal illness, and so he wants to leave his wealth to them, but yet at the same time he wants to kill them. So it's like this odd story where they're trying to survive, like they're at the top of his this corporate tower, and they're trying, and he's killing them off, and so they're trying to survive this whole thing. But yet at the same time there's like these like other people, the gods or whatever, that are above them, above this whole thing, that are like using this as kind of like this game, and placing bets on who's going to survive and who's going to win and what's going to happen on outcomes. It's like a really crazy story. I thought it was a nice way to start a Saturday at 10 a.m. I'll just say that. So
well, yeah, because it's like Saturday morning cartoons,
yeah,
and then except with a twist and again a lot of blood and different sort of torture devices. But you've got the voice of like Marina Baccarin as this, yeah, otherworldly being. And I mean, like you said, Ray Wise, it's anything he does, I just kind of adore. And I mean, his performance was so good that he was nominated for Best Actor, I
yeah,
believe, in that, which that says a lot considering he's animated and it was just his voice.
yeah.
But I saw part of that, but then I also saw Making Monsters,
Yeah,
because
Making
I've seen
Monsters is the
Making.
one that I heard so much good things about, and I'm like, and that's, again, this is like where it gets hard because you have to make these choices. But I know you saw it and you really like that movie.
I love Making Monsters. I love everything about Making Monsters. That was actually one of my favorite films at Telluride. And yeah, the direction's great, the story's great. the acting by the actor actually in that film won Best Actor for the film.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and yeah, and the
Is that about the
director,
vloggers? Is it about the vloggers or the YouTubers? Is that what that?
yes, and the husband has this uh vlog where it's kind of like Scare Tactics, where he goes around and he's got 100,000 followers and all this stuff, but he and his wife are trying to get pregnant, and she's like, look, that's great, you want to do this, but I need to try and get pregnant, and if I do this, you can't scare me. But she's like the star of his show, and people love that. So they go to a friend's house to while they're actually at like an in vitro clinic, they meet up with him, and just random is like, hey, I've got this beautiful country house, why don't you come and meet me? And then they go to the house to think they're having a great weekend. They have a very interesting time. You get to see the wife do freestyle rapping, which that is actually her, Alana Elmer, who plays Allison. That's her freestyling, and she's incredible. And then it goes dark in a way that's, I don't know, it's just one of my favorite films. Like, the person who plays the antagonist in the film, that was actually his house. Everything that is in that house is his. And this is his first role, playing this like demented psychopath killer guy, and he knocked it out of the park. I thought the direction was great. I think the cinematography is great. And honestly, there's just so many things that I don't have a negative. Like, I loved
Mhm.
it.
Yeah, I think when I read the description about it, I'm like, oh, vloggers. I don't know if I want to watch that. Like, I think, it's just like like how that was like described. I'm like, am I gonna, do I, I don't know if I care about that. Then I remember after the movie, everyone's like coming out and like, oh, that was so great. And I'm like, I could have seen that. So
Well, and that's like, I saw it before, and people ask me about it. I'm like, no, I'm seeing this one because I haven't seen it, but go to Making Monsters. Like, I love it. And then, I missed a little bit of To Your Last Death to actually see the beginning of Making Monsters, but then I had to go to Your Last Death.
no.
And then I missed Beyond Horror because I wanted to eat something, and I regret doing that, and I missed both of the panels.
Well, I went to Beyond Horror, and that was one that I had like essentially circled on my schedule that I definitely wanted to see this because Beyond Horror, the full title, The History and Subculture of Red Films,
Hmm.
directed by Jesse Seitz and Marcus Cook. I who actually won Best Director too in the awards, which I was extremely happy that they won this because this is a very up close and personal look at red films, and red
Hmm.
films are like that extreme side of horror. And I remember telling Sean about this, like
Yeah.
back when he wanted to do a podcast, and I'm like, yeah, man, this is like I'm not. It's not. That's not something. That's not an area that I'm like really like knowledgeable about, but I was super curious, and it's great to have a documentary that can introduce you to the directors and the people that are involved in making red films because I've always heard about them. It's whether it's the August Underground films or just and I know that they'd screened Necromantic on the Friday night,
Right.
and
Yeah.
that was another one that was touched on. But they talked about all these. They talked to the directors. They talked to people that are very involved just to get their take on why they make these movies, which I thought was really cool because if you're not into it, and I know it's a very divisive subgenre of horror is red films, and because they're so extreme, it's essentially like very realistic, just in contextually like very very tough to watch some of this stuff, and even what was crazy about it is that they have clips of a lot of these films and people are walking out during the documentary because
Really?
the clips are so extreme. And I was not, I was like, yep, I can understand why people would walk out of this because it's not just the gore, but it's also like vomiting and all this other stuff that is in these films, and they're showing it to you in the clips to show you here's what it is. Like we're talking about it, but just so you know, here's a clip from it. And it's not an easy documentary to watch, but it is very, very fascinating because it's shedding a light on this subgenre of film that I don't think a lot of people know about.
Yeah. See,
And
I don't like things that extreme, like my personal tastes
sure,
wouldn't. But see, in the context of a documentary, I think I would be fine. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
to know what the context is, because you have to know the context.
yeah, I'm the
Yeah.
same way, Sean. And I was like,
Yeah.
when I watched it, I was like, I don't necessarily want to sit down and watch these films because this isn't. I don't, I've seen a few, not a lot, and I'm like, I'm okay. I'm like, I don't need to like see them, but to see them talk about them and why they make them and what the consequences in some cases are, I thought was really interesting because you don't. I mean, no one's, until this. I don't think there's been any place that where people can just talk about it so you understand at least why these exist. Because I think there's again that part of the horror community that's like, oh, that stuff, no way, that stuff's terrible and it's bad, and we don't want it, in our community because it's so extreme. But yet there's reasons for it and there's reasons why it exists, and I thought that was really cool. But
What were
that,
some of the reasons that
um,
they
well,
gave?
so I,
Catharsis?
yeah, that's definitely one of them. It's knowing that what you're seeing is you know so real, and being able to have an outlet to actually be able to like my life, like things that have happened in my life and my experiences are this way, and I want to be able to present that, so that others that are have gone through this or understand this know what I'm going through, kind of thing.
Hmm.
So I mean that's definitely one part of it, and I think there's just that other side of people that are just like pushing the boundaries. Like, what, we've seen all these other horror films. It's like how much more extreme can it get? And it's just continually pushing it, and it's like how far can we go? And it's it's out there. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like, and I know people that have seen a lot of these films, and they're and I've seen a few of them, and like they talk about the guinea pig films from Japan from the 80s, and it's I just think it's just a really interesting thing that I don't necessarily need to watch those films, but it's really cool to see it packaged into a documentary.
Hmm.
Hear the filmmakers talk about the films, what why they made them, what it meant to them, kind of where they've gone. Because a lot of them actually moved on and done other things. So,
Right.
but it was pretty wild. And so I think because of that, some of the films that we got later in the day, which we'll talk about, are representative of those type of films.
Yes, I know there's definitely one we're going to talk about that's very representative of those type of films.
Yeah.
And see, when you did that, oh no, that's when I had lunch. But then I end up going to, I think you saw She Never Died, and
Yep.
I end up going to Horror Comedy Shorts B, which that was one of my favorite, favorite 2 hours of the entire fest.
Really?
Because every single one of those shorts was fantastic. I mean, there wasn't a weak one in the bunch. And
What are some of the ones that are like? Can you talk about a few that are really good, or are they just?
yeah, well, one I think I don't even know if they had a different if they differentiated between the horror comedy shorts or maybe they did. But I know in this one, I think almost every single one of them was nominated for like the best horror comedy short. And in Inflatio, which started out very dark, and then at the very end, you get the punchline, was fantastic, and then that ended up winning the best horror comedy short of the fest.
Okay.
We got a monkey's paw, who's got a couple of roommates who find a monkey's paw and how they just keep screwing it up and screwing it up and screwing it up. Like, it was really, really funny. We Follow You, that's like about influencers and what happens when people actually like what get like they will die if they don't like see what the next photo of this person is doing and stuff like that, which I think says a lot about social media. But one of the ones I thought was extremely funny was Shh. That's about two parents who have a baby, and they, you know, they just, there's not a single word uttered except for shh. And it's what they go through, and like about parenting and having a child and what that does to your relationship. And then it's not a very fun ending, but this was a great block of shorts. Like, they were all very funny. They were very, you know, some of them were topical. And yeah, and but they're also diverse. Like, you know, again, Nightmare is well done. Like, this was my favorite block from
Huh.
so I mean, I could honestly name every single one of them and say yep, 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 and yep. But if of the whole thing, Inflatio, Possessions, We Follow You, and Shush were the ones that really stuck out to me. And then I got to see probably my favorite short of that same day, We Die Alone, which ended up having the best actor in a short film. Uh, Baker Chase, who was fantastic, about this guy who keeps going on these online sites and, you know, wants to meet up with women, and then he just can't. He'd rather have the image of the woman in his house, and he has a nice little relationship with the person that he works with, but he's got this like, look, we all die alone. I'm just gonna, you know, have this imaginary relationship. I'd rather do that than actually meet. And then something happens, and then he developed something with his neighbor, and it was solid. Like, everything about that short I thought was brilliant.
Hmm.
And Baker's performance was one of the highlight, and that was much deserved best actor. Like, he nailed it.
Cool.
So yeah, Saturday was a very good day for shorts.
That's awesome. I saw She Never Died, which is like a loose sequel to He Never Died, which starred Henry Rollins,
Mhm.
and you know, very, you know, but it's really not related to that movie at all. I mean, it's essentially like a whole nother new character, and she's a, you know, woman this time, and she's great, you know, and it's not, you know, I wouldn't say that this is like, I don't think it like outdoes anything. I thought He Never Died is great. I think that movie is like really a cool film, and I think this one um, sort of just extends that, you know, and just with different characters. And I think it's got some fun acting in it, and I think the lead, that she's just very deadpan, and you know, doesn't really care. She's just out to to sort of be this unreluctant, you know, this reluctant hero of the community. And there's like this ring of this underground, like these guys that are like um, doing that are essentially kidnapping young women, and they're making snuff films and all that. So she's like gets involved to, like, you know, save the day essentially. And I think it's just fun. I think it's just like a solid, fun, simple but very entertaining film. So it was nice. It was like in a very nice slot. I think that was like late afternoon, and then that what followed was like Blood Machines, which I had saw at Fantastic Fest, and I had to see again on the big screen because, oh my gosh, that movie is like a heavy metal live action heavy metal movie. It's just bonkers, and it's like, and I think it's got some issues, and it's by the guys that made the Turbo Killer music video for Carpenter Brute, and that video is amazing. Like, that Turbo Killer is like, it's just such an incredible music video. And I think these guys are like, okay, well, how do we make a feature film that's in that same universe? And they did. And I think some of the weak spots are just, you know, some of the acting, some of the screenplay itself, but visually though, it's stunning. It's like it's the movie that you're like, yes, you want to see that on the big screen because it's so beautiful and it's so colorful, and it's just so batshit crazy too. I mean, the story I don't even think the story really makes any sense, but it's just cool to see it. I'm like, okay, I want to see that again. So that's fun. And and then I think after that we had the awards, which there are so many awards, number one, which is great. And I think my biggest takeaway from that is like that was like the most attended anything of the entire weekend. It was
Uh-huh.
like a packed theater, and it's because there was a lot of filmmakers there, and I love seeing that. And you're like looking around like, wow, here's everybody that's like actually at the festival. They're in this room for the awards. And then it was just such a warm and atmosphere in terms of like the awards and who won, and having these filmmakers that were literally in tears, like accepting
Yeah.
their award, which
Oh,
was incredible, because this is, for a lot of them, this is like their first film, their first short film or whatever. And the fact that Nightmares is acknowledging all of them from like, all these different short films as well as the features, I thought it was such a really nice touch to the overall festival. And to see that and to be there for that, we were pretty close to the front, and just to hear the speeches, I thought it was great.
that's
And I know
cool.
you were there, Katie, right?
Yeah, I was in the front, hence my name.
Yeah.
And yeah, I actually recorded, I live streamed the entire award ceremony, which that's always nice. That's always nice to see, like, especially when, when you're, when the people who win the awards are in the moment and they, can't reflect, like, they're like, oh God, what did I say there? And it's like, and I get to, like, don't worry, I recorded the whole thing, and like, oh, that was great. And one of the things, when you were in Blood Machines, I was at the Ohio Shorts, and I saw Look Twice, that then ended up winning the Ohio Shorts,
Right.
Best Ohio Short, which I thought that was great too. That's about a guard who sees this like weird image on the screen, and it was just very intense. And again, great direction, great acting in it, and that's one that I think is definitely making some headway at different festivals. But it's just it's one of the things that I love about Nightmares is the award ceremony, because I say it's like, it's not an emphasis on the awards, it's the fact that we're all here, we're supporting each other, and you get that feel in that room. Like, everyone is just excited to be nominated. And I mean, I think 99% of those speeches were like, I don't even know how I got here. I didn't realize
Right.
I was
Right.
I'm totally not prepared. I have nothing to say. Thank you. And it's just, just a big love fest that, had some very well-deserved recipients. So
Yeah.
that was great. And
I
then after that, we had the Lodge.
went to dinner for
Oh,
that
did you?
because I saw the Lodge at Cinepocalypse.
Yeah, I saw the Lodge at Cinepocalypse too. I forget what did I see the horror show? No, I went to a little bit of the Lodge, but I probably ate at that time too. And then I went to the Thriller shorts for a little bit, and then I snuck into after the Thriller shorts, I went to, well, that's Thriller shorts is where I saw We Die Alone, and then I went to Scare Package. And Scare Package I saw at a fest before that. I saw it in a Telluride. It was one of my favorite fests. Honestly, I love seeing Scare Packages the second time than I did the first time. And
And Scare Package is
that,
that's the anthology, right? It
yeah,
has like 7 or 8 directors or something.
yeah, it's got like Chris McEnroy and Anthony Cousins, which Chris McEnroy's short that he did in that he's just so good. He's just, I mean, because that is such a brilliant like horror comedy with everything, and each one of those uh, little episodes did that, I think, very, very well. But I mean, Chris McEnroy's to me stood out the most. But yeah, I really did like watching Scare Package the second time more than the first, because I knew it was going to happen and I just got excited for it.
Hmm. Yeah, I saw it too, and Emily Higgins is also one of the directors, and I've been following her career. I mean, she made her first movie when she was 12 years old, and
Oh, wow.
so it's great to see her, progress through all these films. So I was really happy about that. But I think as far as an anthology goes, just as a horror anthology, I think it's almost perfect in a way, because it delivers exactly what it's supposed to. It's funny, and it has the horror, it has the practical effects, and it's funny. And I mean, that's the big part of it, is that, that's, kind of like in that, when you think about Creepshow, I think like one thing that makes Creepshow, a great horror anthology, one of the greats, if not the greatest, is that it's also funny. And I think this does really, really well at being very funny. And our theater, I mean, that theater was like having a great time watching Scare Package.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, each one, because I mean, even Aaron Coots directed the whole thing with Chad's, what is it, the video store clerk thing. And, you know, there's a nice little surprise
Hmm.
guess that I didn't know was going to happen. And then you see it's like, what? What's
Yep.
he
Yep.
doing here?
Right.
And I look forward, spoiler, to the sequel that I know is in talks. And I got a little, when I talked to the director, he told me like what uh he gave me the pitch for it. He told me what the pitch for it's going to be, and I'm like, I can't wait to see that. I mean,
Hmm.
again, you know, this is one of those films that I just want to see over and over and over again to pick up on different things that I
Right.
missed
Right.
when I haven't
Well,
been in the theater.
and it's funny because Aaron said this after the during the Q&A that they originally were going to call it tropes because that's all
Yeah.
it is. It's all
Hmm.
these horror tropes that you've seen in all these movies, but that are all thrown into this one anthology. But I thought, and then he's like, but Scare Package itself as a name is its own trope, and it's like I'm so happy. And I told him that when I was talking to him, I'm like, I'm so glad that you called it that because that is such a great title for it for this film. It's super fun, really enjoyable. Did you
Yeah,
go?
I'm really hoping I can see this again at a fest
Yeah.
because I just love the crowd reaction. This is one of my favorite crowd reactions for a film at a festival this
I
year.
think, but I think it's going to Shutter next year. Is that correct?
From what I heard, maybe in May. So there's a possibility it could be at some festivals next year, possibly
Oh,
even in Chicago.
okay, cool. Did you
Little
go to the shorts
teaser.
next, or did you go to Antrim, deadliest film ever made?
I went to Antrim,
Okay.
which I saw that at Windy City
Oh yeah.
Horrorama.
Yep.
Yeah. And again, I mean, that's a film. Uh, you could hear a pin drop in that theater. It
Yeah.
is so quiet and tense. And it's a good thing it didn't come out in the 70s. It's got that 70s feel to it. It's like almost too real. Like
Yeah.
watching it, it has a little bit of that Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like, I don't know. I feel like I feel like this is actually happening and these people are doing this stuff. And I don't know how I feel about that. But I mean, you know that it's got to be, I think it was filmed like in 2016 or something or 2015. But yeah, it's a good thing it didn't come out in the 70s because I don't think people could handle it. It's intense. And then one of the things I like about it is there's so many things that you can pick up on with like the symbols and the devil worship and or is it not and the demons and the relationship between the brother and the sister. It's like trying to find their dig their way to hell to like find their dog that died. I'm like, what is going on in this movie? And then you've got the whole like grittiness to it that makes it seem, like I said, way too real. But yeah, again, at Windy City Horrorama, you could hear a pin drop in that theater. Like it felt like I was in a tomb. It was so quiet. Same thing with this.
Yep.
Same thing with this. Which I said. I mean, for a horror film, that says a lot. When it's like you're in a theater full of people, yet there's just this uneasy feeling like what's gonna happen. I don't even want to whisper anything,
Right.
or I don't want to breathe too hard because it's gonna wake something up.
Right.
Yeah, so that was I thought Antrim was great.
Yeah. I like the framing device of it of like setting it up like this like lost film, cursed film, and
Uh-huh.
how it hasn't been seen by anybody. And now they finally found it. Now you're gonna see it, and the whole time you're like, what's gonna happen to me from watching this? Kind of like that sort of feeling, which is pretty cool.
Uh-huh. Well, even because I mean they preface this by saying like when this is filmed, whenever this is played, like it the theaters have burnt down. And
Yeah.
I saw this on a screener and I was a little like the deadliest film ever made. I was like, okay, is this like a documentary? And this is like they're sending me the ring. Like, did
Right.
someone not like me? And like you're watching it, I'm like, I don't necessarily no, I don't know. But I mean, seeing the theater is a whole different experience. And
Right.
I'm so glad I got to see that there. And
Yeah.
then I don't know if I like went to go get something to eat or if I was talking to people, but I walked in late to The Obsessed.
Obsessed
which
was the midnight movie, part of the late night mind fuck block, which they call it
yes.
for Saturday night. So it's 2 films. It starts at midnight. The Obsessed, and that was directed by Damiano Cristofaro, who's also in the Beyond Horror documentary.
Oh, nice. See, I did not know that. I like the cats in this movie a lot. There's a lot of different cats, which are very cute.
This
Very
movie,
bizarre film.
let's just say, so this movie is a guy who is obsessed with a singer and is doing crazy things to his body, because of the singer, because he is obsessed with the singer. And it just continues just to go down, and it just gets crazier and crazier as it goes along. But he lives with like 20 cats. It's like something like that. There's so many cats. There's literally a scene where he sits down to eat, and one cat jumps up on the table, then another one jumps up, and it's like it's almost like a comedy bit. Cats just keep jumping up because they want to see what he's eating, and they just keep coming from off screen onto the table, and you're like, what is going on here? Like, what is this supposed to be a comedy? It's just, I think maybe it is. It's maybe, or at least it's unintentional. I don't know, but I thought that movie was funny. It was different.
Different is very nice. Different. You were very kind, Jay. Yes, it was very different.
But what I thought was, and this is why I think it kind of has to be sort of like humorous, is that singer, those songs were terrible. Like, awful. Like every time he would like fire up her video and he was like playing the video and talking to her on the screen, I'm like, this song is terrible, dude. It's like, you like this? It's like, so yeah.
Wasn't there something where at one point he threw up in a bowl and then the vomit turned into his face and it was talking or something? Am I dreaming that? I don't know. This is one of the reasons why I love this festival. I don't know where I would see this. I don't think I'd find it on Netflix. Yeah. I'm not going to be like going on demand. It's like, sure, let's see what this is and pay $5. And I'm like, I don't know. So this is one of the things why I love about Nightmares Film Festival.
Yeah. It's like a very extreme body horror film, which I would say for sure that movie, but the 2 o'clock, the 2 a.m. movie, 29 Needles, that is a movie that I'm like, I know I would not see anywhere else. Like, there's no festival that is playing 29 Needles. That movie,
no.
Wow. You want to just talk about a movie that is totally like just something you just would not see at a festival. Like, I can't believe it. I still, like, even now thinking about it, I'm like, wow, they did that. They played it. They did it. They showed it. Nightmares did it. Whatever. And I remember talking to Jason the next day about that, and he's like, I'm proud that you went to that. That you stuck around for that. And I'm like, of course I'm going to see that. But whatever. It's something. But yeah, you were there.
Well, yeah, I was there. And in fact, because I wasn't sure if I was going to, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. Now
Right.
Sean, you got to realize we've been there since around 10 a.m.
That's ridiculous.
And it's not like I can go back to where I was staying, take a nap, and then come back. No, I was there since around 10 a.m. There are a number of people who are going to leave. And I'm like, look, I haven't heard much about the film. All I know, it's like, someone said like, well, I heard it has a lot of penises in it. So it's like, so, we're all adults. We can handle, I can handle some penis. You can handle some penis. Like, stuff like that was very, that's not what I would say. If I describe that film, saying I heard it had a lot of penises in it is not even close to what I would use to describe that film.
There was a lot of penis handling. I will say that. Yeah.
We should have them change. They added a blurb on their Facebook page on one of their from you, Jay, and I'm gonna have them change it to that.
Yeah, there's a lot of penis handling.
Yes, there are a lot of penises in different orifices and different things and different people and places and whatnot, and then there's also just insertion of different objects in different orifices. And there was one time where I mean, I could feel my face making just this reaction. Like, I don't how do you fit that in there? I don't understand. Like, I mean, people have babies, but I don't, where did that come from now? And how did they get that close to film it? But then there was a part where I actually gagged. I thought I was going to get sick, like, because there's just some stuff with fluids, and I think it, in the end, it ends up that I think the lead character has daddy issues. I mean, to sum it up nicely, but there's like a lot of like body issues and like not body dysmorphia, but just, I don't know, some like SM. I think the way they sum it up in the programming, it's like, when the pain he inflicts on himself can no longer hold back the horrors in his head, a man gives in to his most forbidden desires. I mean, that is making it sound very sexy. And this is like taking the word disturbing. I don't know. I think if you had the definition of disturbing, it would have a picture. You could have a picture of 29 needles next to it and just say, watch this film. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, I'm not going to see this anyplace else. I mean, Nightmares did it. I don't know where I would see this, so I'm glad I went to Nightmares to be able to experience that.
Wow. So we need to start wrapping things up for time. Is there a way we can kind of rapid fire day 4?
Yeah, it's the last day, so there's only 3 features and a handful of shorts to discuss. But yeah,
have we hit everything on day 3?
Yeah.
The award ceremony. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Yeah, day 3 was a big one. Day 3 had what, I think 10, and then so many shorts and the awards. I mean, day 4, that had my favorite film, Puppet Killer. I loved it. That was my favorite film of the fest. Absolutely.
What is Puppet Killer about? Because the title itself, I'm in. I mean,
so
is this a puppet movie or no? Because I'm just going to assume it's just a puppet slasher.
It kind of is. It has a puppet that's very Muppet-like, Sesame Street, that goes on a killing spree.
Okay.
That kills this little boy's stepmother. And then he grows up to be a 17-year-old man. What is brilliant is that the director, Lisa Ovies, cast the 17-year-old as a 40-plus-year-old man. That is very obvious. And his dad is like a few years older than him. I just immediately just thought that was just so funny. And she's got, there's different... the Soska sisters are in it. You've got a lot of different horror tropes, nods to different horror films. Like, there's 3 characters that are named Jamie, Lee, and Curtis. And I just thought it was just so funny. It was great. When the little boy is 17, he takes his friends to the same house where his stepmother disappeared, and there's his puppet friend, and all the killing starts happening again. I love this film.
Yeah, it's very tongue-in-cheek. It's a very fun movie, and I love that it has its own. It's making fun of horror tropes that you're used to seeing, but doing its own thing with them, which is great.
And it's also a Christmas movie, so that'll be one of my new favorite Christmas movies.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, the other feature that I would want to talk about is Slaughterhouse Slumber Party by Dustin Mills. Really had a super fun time with this. I mean, it's essentially, it's like an all-woman film. It's kind of like, even Dustin said this, he grew up on seeing like Jim Wynorski films, and you'd see like these big casts of women in his films, and, they'd get unclothed and, be doing silly things or whatever, but it'd be a horror film or an action film or whatever. And he wanted to create a film that was like that. So essentially you've got, a house full of women that are mostly nude, like the entire time, which is crazy. But it's like an Evil Dead, a take on Evil Dead. And it's like super fun, super silly, great acting though. They're all like fully committed to this, like all these, and they're naked. I mean, they're naked running around doing these crazy things, but they're fully committed to it, to the story and what's happening. And I just thought he did a great job with it. I was like really that was one of my favorite films just because it's just so much fun, and it is such a throwback to those kind of films that, we're used to seeing, like again, the Wernerski films and others. So yeah, that was great. I think you saw that too, Katie, right?
I did, and I loved the music in that film. I thought
Oh
that
yeah.
was great. I thought they had some great practical effects. One of my favorite performances in a feature, Haley J. Madison. I mean, if they had an award for Best Supporting Actress, I think she would have gotten it hands down.
Yeah.
Like she was probably my favorite actress in the film. She was great.
She's so
There is a
funny.
lot of nudity, and let's clarify. It is full on nudity. There is no like, oh, invisible G-string. No, there's nothing. I mean, those girls are buck naked. And I mean, it says a lot. And like, look, it's hard to be running around like that.
Yeah.
But it was fun. And it had a fun, it's like,
Yeah.
the
It's a
girls
fun movie.
working together.
Yeah, it's a fun movie.
And then I ended up seeing like a lot of shorts. It's like the thing with the glowing green eyes, about a little support group, that was in the Ohio Shorts block. And that's directed by Jeremy Herbert. That was fantastic. I can see that being a feature. It's a group of people in Ohio. They're having like a meeting. No one comes to the meeting, so there's only 4 of them, and they bring up like, there's people with glowing green eyes, and each one of them has seen them, but it's like, why haven't we done anything about it? And that, I think, had a cool message to it. I could definitely see that being a feature. Communication is Key by A.D. Burnett, about, what it's, communication with a couple. You really need to talk and not take each other for granted. I think that was amazing. Let Me Play was one of my favorites of the fest. Chickens. Ooh, Chickens is honestly one of my favorite shorts of the year. It's very political and topical, and it's just a social awareness of the injustice that's been going on and stuff, but also having a social media aspect about it that I think everyone needs to see, because honestly, I think it is brilliant. Rehome, I think, with directed by Izzy Lee, that had Gigi Salguero in it. That again, you're talking about the times right now, and with the just different awareness of trying to help your child when stuff is going on with the political aspects of our time. And then Abby and Fused. Sunday was another great day for shorts. And yeah, I mean, and that was ended up being the last of the fest. I think it was Z, the last film of the fest, which kind of goes along with A, B, and Z.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
so. Yeah, I
mean, I don't know if they did. I don't know if that's the reason why they did it. I thought it might be, but
could be. I really liked Fuse a lot. That's I think that's Stephen Ria, right?
Yeah, Fuse with Stephen Ria.
Yeah, really good one. And I also like Wash, which I thought was a really like hyperkinetic, like stop motion, but like live action short about the laundry. That was crazy. The monstrous laundry situation they had. I thought was pretty funny. But yeah, the shorts were solid for the final day. But yeah, and that was it. That was it for.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Man, I felt like I've been there.
Yeah.
It was great. It was a great festival. It was honestly great. You're gonna have to come next year.
I know. It sounds right up my alley. I mean, I get intimidated by some of these film festivals, and this one sounds kind of down to my sensibilities, I think.
It's super. Yeah, it's super chill. Like that's what I love about it. It's like it's not like a high pressure situation. Like Fantastic Fest is like on, like it is crazy. But this is like so chill. I just love it. I thought it's so great to have a festival where you can just hang out and chill and talk to people.
Awesome.
Yeah,
very cool. If you're listening to this and you want to check out Nightmares Film Festival, it's nightmaresfest.com. So you can check it out there. You can keep, I guess sign up just so you know when the next one's going to happen and next year, and get your tickets and plan a festival trip.
And you can read my recaps on Screamcast.
And yes, read the recaps over at thescreamcast.com, which has been completely revamped. I'm very happy about the revamp that my web designer did. uh, and paid for. But uh,
Subtle.
I did it
Subtle.
myself.
Yeah.
But you can actually find articles and stuff now easier, and I like the setup a lot better now. So the site had been bugging me for years, so I finally just got my shit together and fixed it. And now we got more writing happening on the site, so I'm very happy about that. And I think a new article from a good old Bede Germain should be hitting very soon.
Yep. Horror from Down Under.
Horror from Down
Nice.
Under articles. So, all right. Sorry, it's it's a weekday. It's getting late for me. Starting.
Oh, I know.
It's later for
one
you
last
guys,
thing.
which is ridiculous.
No, it's later for us.
One last thing.
I
It's almost
know.
midnight for us.
I
One
know.
last thing, if anyone's interested in seeing like any of the Q&As from the fest, the full coverage of the award ceremony, and then just pictures with the directors and different things, you can check those out on my site, The Blonde in Front, on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, because I made sure to record like almost every single one of the Q&As, and it's really good. It's really cool to see the directors or actors, anyone involved, talk about the films and how excited they
Awesome.
are.
Perfect. I'll make sure I put a link to all your stuff in the show notes so everyone can just head down there and click on that stuff. Cati, thank you so much for joining us on this special edition of the Screamcast.
Thank you for having me. I loved it.
And Jay, thank you for helping this come together. And this episode would not be a thing if it wasn't for you. So thank you.
Thank you, Sean. It was great. My pleasure. I always like
All
joining the Screamcast podcast.
And Jay, where can people find you on Twitter and stuff? What's your Twitter name?
You can follow me on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, Sleestack with 2 Ks. That's Sleestack with 2 Ks. Or just follow my writing at Screamcast. But I'm also Sleestack on Letterboxd too. If you're on Letterboxd.
2 Ks, very important.
2 Ks.
There's another.
Sean's made that mistake.
Another Twitter guy out there. This Sleestack. So spelling is very important. I'll put in the show notes. Cati, did you give your Twitter and Instagram handle, or is it just The Blonde in Front?
It's The Blonde in Front. I am not on Twitter.
That's
just
probably
am. I'm holding off. But
Twitter's a
no, I am
cesspool.
on Instagram. I am on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube videos. My minute reviews, and then different Q&As at different festivals and screenings and whatnot.
All right, perfect. Well, you can find me over at, of course, thescreamcast.com, and over at screamingpods.com. And I'm not gonna spell. I changed my Twitter handle, so it's easier to people can spell it now. Sean narrates, just Sean narrates on Twitter, so, and Instagram and all that stuff. So follow me there. And thank you all for listening. Cati and Jay, thanks for hanging out, and we'll talk to all of you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, don't tell me you're leaving. The party's just begun.